All right, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting any further time, let's get started with our keynote. Our keynote presentation is titled Crisis Recovery and Digital Transformations, the Human-Centered Approach for Rebuilding the Economy. Ladies and gentlemen, this presentation highlights the challenges and opportunities of growing technology adoption in the workplace and also the importance of fostering a skilled digital workforce. Our keynote speaker has been serving International Labour Organization since 1995 in cities such as Geneva, Bangkok, Dhaka, and New Delhi. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Panudda Boonpala, Deputy Regional Director of Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific for International Labour Organization. Let's give her a huge round of applause.
Work. Whether you have it, you need it, or you depend on others to have it, work is central to your well-being. Work gives our lives purpose and dignity. Work gives us our humanity. Almost 500 million women and men need work. Millions more have work but live in poverty. And hundreds of millions lack the basic labor rights to give them a living that is healthy, safe and secure. The International Labour Organization is the UN agency for the world of work. It was founded on the belief that social justice is essential to universal and lasting peace. The ILO promotes decent work for all through an agenda that aims to give people a fair stake in their working lives and in society. The ILO was created in 1919 as part of the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I, to ensure social justice for people through work. It became a specialized agency of the newly formed United Nations after the Second World War, and today has a membership of 187 countries that continues to grow. The ILO received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1969 and today is recognized as the world's authority on the world of work. Its impact is seen at key moments in history. The work of the ILO affects almost every aspect of our lives. From regulations setting out safety and health standards, through to policies to end discrimination, violence and harassment in the world of work, there exists international labor standards to protect us. Eradicating child labor and forced labor, ensuring equal pay for work of equal value, creating new and better jobs, strengthening social protection systems, helping women and men gain the skills they need to succeed at work, and upholding the rights of workers and employers, including through social dialogue. The ILO mandate is an integral part of all 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and decent work itself is Goal 8 of the UN's 2030 Agenda. Headquartered in Geneva and with over 40 field offices around the globe, the ILO is unique amongst international organizations, where not only governments, but employers and workers as well have equal voices. They work together to create labor standards and policies that impact today's global economy. Headed by a Director General, the Secretariat conducts research and data analysis about the world of work and supports the work of members and constituents. Each June, the organization meets for its annual International Labour Conference, where labor standards are discussed and adopted. Its Executive Council, the governing body, meets 3 times a year. In the field, the ILO advises governments and collaborates on projects at the country level to help put standards and policies into practice through training, education, and research. In 2019, the ILO adopted the Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work to respond to a world experiencing transformative change, driven by technological innovations, demographic shifts, climate change, and globalization. It calls for a human-centered approach to the future of work, a task made all the more urgent by the outbreak of COVID-19. The crisis has revealed a pre-existing pandemic of poverty and inequality, which must be tackled if the world is to build back better. The ILO Declaration for the Future of Work therefore sets out a roadmap for creating a safer, more inclusive and just world, with decent work for all. Globalization, disruptive technologies, rising inequality, climate change and a pandemic. The world of work is changing faster than ever before. The ILO brings over 100 years of knowledge, experience and achievement, as it contributes to peace and security, to sustainable economic growth, and the dignity of all women and men.
The ILO believes that the best way to achieve a peaceful and prosperous world is by promoting social justice and decent work for all. That's been our mandate for over 100 years, and it's all the more important today as we build forward better, to ensure conditions of equity, freedom, security and dignity for all in the world of work.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you today. Let me extend my appreciation to the organizers, Star Media, for inviting me to speak at this session. My focus today will be on to shift the conversation a bit and look at the human angle of where we stand in this economic crisis by bringing in the future of work. The future of work discussions that we had in the past, before the COVID-19 pandemic, typically centers around issues of technology, automation, and emerging skills demands. Well, as with everything else, this conversation has been disrupted heavily by the impact of the COVID pandemic. Now, we talk more generally about restarting the economy and getting labor markets back on track. Nevertheless, the looming challenges triggered by the future of work remain prominent and simply are not going away. And in some respects, the COVID-19 crisis has only accelerated the pace of these changes. So let's look at a little bit on the current labor market situation. To frame the future of work discussion, it is important to know where we stand in terms of the economic crisis and the impact we have seen on jobs in the Asia-Pacific region. The latest ILO estimates indicate that in 2020, working hours in Asia-Pacific declined by 8.2% compared to the end of 2019. This is equal to 145 million full-time jobs. And while we have seen some improvement this year, the recovery has been hindered by the surge in COVID cases and the slow rollout of vaccination programs in many countries. But we all know that these are not just statistics. There are multitudes of devastating human stories behind these numbers, but also stories of resilience. The crisis has disrupted global supply chains and destroyed millions of businesses. The hardest hit have been the micro, small, and medium enterprises. The majority of them operate informally and did not have the financing to survive this crisis. Similarly, the pandemic has exposed the vulnerability of informal workers. Many have not had the option to work from home and have had to compromise their safety and health in order to continue to earn a living. Let us not forget that women and young people have been disproportionately affected. They are overrepresented in many of the most at-risk industries, such as tourism and hospitality. So, That this brings me to the future of work. I believe that our next major future of work challenge will be to address increasingly inequality, which has been intensified by the COVID-19 crisis. High-skilled workers with secure jobs have been able to utilize the latest technologies to work safely from home without any impact on their wages and salaries. Conversely, too many low-skilled workers have not had the same option and have endured considerable losses in working hours and earnings. These dynamics highlight one key duality of our labor markets. We have seen millions of businesses and workers who were least ready for the future of work even before the crisis being pushed further behind. Without some strong government interventions, we will face what almost certainly will be an uneven recovery that could have longer-term effects on the future of work and the prosperity of our societies. And of course, rising inequality only complicates the future of work megatrends that we were all concerned before the COVID pandemic. Issues like technological change, demographic transitions, changing patterns of trade, and environmental sustainability. None of these trends have gone away, and we must now consider to what degree the COVID-19 has further accelerated some of these future of work drivers. In terms of technology, we have a clear connection with the growth of new digital applications to support contact tracing and in fighting the pandemic. New communication technologies have been critical to allow safe teleworking from home and from distant locations, thus driving potentially long-lasting changes in our working environments. While remote work can result in improved productivity and work-life flexibility, it can also negatively blur the boundaries between the working hours and personal life. Digital technologies have also facilitated a shift of economic activities to online platforms and spurred demand for certain occupations and skills. However, the increase in platform work has consequences on the way we govern our labor markets. While many have touted the great potential that digitalization has to accelerate a recovery, we need to remember that what is essential is a human-in-command approach to technological development. Only then can we ensure that the recovery is resilient and inclusive of all. Regarding the future of work and demographics, we have all sadly witnessed the vulnerability of older persons. The crisis has only solidified the call for the adoption of universal social protection to make sure that elderly are well protected and have adequate health and income support. On the other hand, the future of work for too many young women and men has become even more precarious in light of the ways the crisis has adversely impacted their education, training, and career prospects. In addition, the pandemic has highlighted the complexity and fragility of the global trading system. It has caused serious constraints in the global supply chains, and there are indeed many uncertainties about what trade will look like in the future. These will have important consequences for the millions of businesses and workers in trading sectors like export manufacturing. Finally, the environmental remains at the forefront of the future of work challenges. Climate change and the urgency of promoting a just transition, including through the promotion of renewable energy and green jobs, are still very much with us. Let's look at the policy framework for inclusive recovery. How do we deal with all of these complex and daunting challenges? How do we implement sustainable solutions that will promote an inclusive and resilient recovery and human-centered future of work? Not easily, that's for certain. But we do have a solid roadmap at the global level. The ILO Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work was adopted at the 2019 International Labour Conference. The Centenary Declaration was not designed with a health pandemic in mind, but it nonetheless offers the building blocks on which to orient a human-centered recovery that can leave economies, businesses, and workers on a stronger footing to face whatever the future of work may bring. To move forward and create a just, sustainable future, we need to take a human-centered approach to the future of work. That means creating good jobs and providing social protection for people adversely impacted by these transformations. It requires strengthening social dialogue and the institutions of the labor market so that wages are fair, working conditions are decent, and safety and health and fundamental labor rights are ensured. It entails fostering a supportive environment for sustainable enterprises, economic growth, and decent work for all. In order to enhance the resilience of businesses and workers in the era of uncertainties, it is critical to invest in upgrading the skills of our workforce. There will be increased expectations for individuals to pave their own and navigate through the uncertain world of work. It is important to rethink how training system can support these individuals to engage in reskilling and upskilling, to develop their resilience to labor market disruptions. Now, let's look at the inclusive recovery and the future of work in Malaysia. While the Centenary Declaration is a global framework, its principles provide concrete direction and guidance for countries to tackle their own specific challenges related to the future of work. In Malaysia, the recently adopted 12 Malaysian plan underscores many of these same challenges, along with a national vision for an inclusive and sustainable recovery. It recognizes the complexities of realizing Industry 4.0, supporting an aging society, moving up the value chain in the global production, and reducing widespread inequalities. In reading the 12 Malaysia plan, so many important policy enablers stand out to me. Policies that, if implemented successfully, will position Malaysia to not only recover from the crisis, but also be well prepared to thrive despite the uncertainties related to the future of work. In particular, the plan prioritizes developing future-ready talent and accelerating technology adoption. It rightly calls for fostering a skilled workforce through investments and reforms in education and training. Such efforts should help Malaysia's workers to seize emerging job opportunities while supporting businesses to boost their future competitiveness. Specifically, the plan emphasizes the improvement of the technical vocational education and training as a game changer to produce future-ready talents. For this, there are three key issues to be addressed. First, TVET will be required to be more equal and inclusive, not only in terms of access, but also the selection of training fields and occupations. Second, better anticipation of future skill needs will make TVET more relevant. Third, it is important to strengthen the leadership of business and industry in TVET. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly difficult to predict where the future will take us and what the jobs of the future will be like in our region. However, we do know that significant changes in our labor markets and workplaces are imminent. We also know that the future is what we make it and will be shaped by actions that we take now. The challenges ahead are enormous, but so too are the opportunities. To succeed, governments, businesses, and workers need to adjust, be innovative, and work collectively to navigate these transformations. The International Labour Organization is committed to work with the government, employers and workers organizations, and all key stakeholders to help Malaysia prosper in the post-COVID period and beyond. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.